I'm Mike AD, and welcome to the Delta League podcast. This week, it's week 13, and let's get on to the action. We'll start with Monday, where Boston is hosting Detroit and Salt Lake City. And in this one, Detroit wins. Detroit 23, Boston 20, Salt Lake City 10. Boston player Mike Blythe came to courtside with a new look. He's got glasses. Let's hope it helps him see the goal. Come to think of it, the entire team needs a pair. Now, SLC player Eli Ercolani got yellow carded in this match due to spending too much time in the IQ deprivation tank. You look at the condition of this team due to totally controllable circumstances, and it's truly come apart at the seams. This is going to get ripped apart this offseason if they don't do something about it. The fans are going to be the ones who pay a high price for managerial incompetence. Now, in addition, Detroit player Hussein Cohen fell real hard. That was one of the more brutal falls I've seen. And afterward, he just blacked out. Word is he broke his hip, and he went immediately into shock, and he had to be stretchered out. This is a long-term injury, and it's a 16-week recovery, so he won't be back until next season. Now, SLC player Moore Scudder only scored 4 goals in this game, but one of them came at 4 players' expense, and that was a definite goal of the year candidate. Crazy. Now, after this game, rookie from Boston, Konstantinos Papadopoulos, he waited outside the Detroit team bus for Chris Hines. The two were really going at it all game, and I guess Mr. Papadopoulos had some things to get off his chest. Now, when Hines came out, Papadopoulos went right after him, but it's pretty hard to fight a dozen players, coaches, and training staff. Suffice it to say, this wasn't a fair contest, and Papadopoulos did not get his pound of flesh. Now, it's kind of rare in Boston to not get the shit beat out of you by anybody. So we'll see what happens next time the two cross paths next season. Now, for the Revolution, it was Brian Goo with 8 goals. For Detroit, it was Lucius Floyd and Stanislav Muto with 5 goals each. And for Salt Lake City, it was Alexander Farner with 5 blocks. And in the end of this one, Detroit picks up the 4 points. Boston 2 points. Salt Lake City, nada. Now, let's move on to Wednesday, where Atlanta is hosting Memphis and Washington, and Memphis stays hot. Memphis wins. Memphis 24, Washington 20, Atlanta 19. Now, Atlanta Inferno's own Rick Tebow performed the national anthem before this game. And I thought there was a moratorium on this because that was brutal. Now, Memphis captain Khalil Claudel did not play in this game because he had to fly back to Pittsburgh because his father passed away after a long illness. Thoughts and prayers to the Claudel family. Now, Memphis had some real discipline breakdowns in this game, and I mean everybody. This was a heavily penalized game with 4 yellow cards and 3 black cards doled out in this game alone. It's pretty close to the record, but that shred game a few years back took the cake. Now, let's do an autopsy on this cadaver of depravity, shall we? Now, Carmelo McCall, Sancho Pastore, and Shep Forsberg all got yellow carded in this match, along with Dave Scarry from Washington. In addition, Pharaohs players Bianca Watson and Candy Farnetti got black carded, along with Atlanta player Rick Thibault. That is Bianca's second black card this season. She's going underground for 3. Now, Mr. Farnetti is going to pay the piper for that one. That is a guarantee. Now, even the fans had a problem behaving in this one, with some belligerent Washington fans whose courage was undoubtedly fueled by copious amounts of alcohol. We're just cruising for a bruising by picking fights with other fans. At least 12 fans were ejected from this game. Now, for Atlanta, nobody mustered jack shit again. For Memphis, it was Bianca Watson with 6 goals. It was Alan Adam with 9 blocks. And Carmelo McCall with 13 blocks. Now, for Washington, once again, nobody mustered jack shit again. No wonder this team seems to be in trouble lately. Now, in the end of this one, Memphis gets the 4 points. Washington, 2 points. Atlanta misses 2 points by 1 goal. Nothing. Again. Now, let's move on to Saturday's matinee game, where Phoenix is hosting Vancouver and Philadelphia. And in this one, the Shred win. Philadelphia 37, Phoenix 33, Vancouver 25. Now, early in the week, the newest member of the Shred roster, Samson Sartell, was pulled over. The officer smelled marijuana. They popped the trunk. And there was marijuana in the car. And by marijuana, I just don't mean a dime bag. It's a significant amount. According to Arizona law, it looks like his career is done. More on this later. Now, Phoenix took the court with some great alternative jerseys, literally just black on flame. Get yourself one of these. Earlier in the year, it was announced that the team would be changing its colors. Not sure if this was part of the plan or these were on the kit sked to begin with. But I think regardless of this fact, they should keep these. Now, this game had its share of penalties, with Phoenix players Nan Freiling and Demetrius Lindbergh picking up yellow cards. Vancouver's Kofi Dominguez and Philly's Lloyd Warfield picked up cards for lack of discipline. For Warfield, it's his 3rd yellow card this season. If you look at Philly's scorecard, it's replete with yellow and black cards. They need to buckle down, or else they're going to spend the postseason playing croquet with Till Phillips. Now, for Phoenix, it was Jackson Truman with 18 blocks and Curly Barnabani with 16 goals. And for Vancouver, nobody mustered jack shit. For Philadelphia, it was Guido Nagaran with 5 blocks and Suzuki Sato with 9 goals. And in the end of this one, Philadelphia picks up the 4 points. Phoenix, 2 points. Vancouver, nothing. Now, let's move on to Denver, where the Sky are hosting Dallas and New York. And in this one, New York wins. New York 40, Denver 38, Dallas 22. Now, Rhino Montalban not only led his team in scoring, but also in stupid, as he picked up his 3rd yellow card of the season. They need this guy, because when he's on his game, it's hard to beat this New York team. This guy who has a way of putting everyone in jeopardy when he's out there. Now, for Denver, it was Pooh McCarthy with 12 goals. For Dallas, it was Corey Vignali with 10 blocks and Bernie Tully with 6 goals. For New York, it was Rhino Montalban with 9 goals, and Ruck Weinstein with 9 goals, and Simon Bork with 5 blocks. And in the end of this one, New York picks up the 4 points. Denver, 2 points. Dallas, nothing. Now, let's move on to Seattle, where the Pirates are hosting Toronto and Miami. And in this one, Seattle wins. Seattle 44, Miami 29, Toronto 23. Now, Toronto player Barb White, who's out for the season due to a horrific leg break earlier this year, came to courtside in a walking boot, which told you bad shit was going to go down. Now, so this game did not go Toronto's way, and Barb White was letting the official know how good of a job he was doing and creating some verbal havoc from the sidelines. Now, so much that she got yellow carded, and after you get penalized, you think to yourself, perhaps I should tone it down. Nah, I'll ramp it up. So she continues to give the ref flack, and Jupiter Hasselbeck had enough. She gives her another yellow card, then tosses her from the game. That was an expensive trip to the stadium for White. Now, the second period intermission of this game was delayed when Toronto band Suffer the Soul had their set delayed due to a power outage. Nonetheless, they came on 23 minutes late, rocked the house for 19 minutes, and got on a plane to Budokan. Now, there were some fan-related shenanigans, as this was drunk Toronto fans got a little too rough with Seattle mascot Bucky Buccaneer, causing him to fall down a flight of stairs. Everyone was all right, but the Tower fans were ejected. Now, for Seattle, we had Frank Viano with 14 blocks. James Korn and Isaac Parker Johnson with 10 goals each. For Toronto, it was Gabriella Davignon with 5 goals. And for Miami, no one mustered jack shit because they have a great balanced approach as a team. They got the 2 points, but no one mustered jack shit. Now, in the end of this one, Seattle gets the 4 points. Miami picks up 2 again, and Toronto, looking on the outside, nothing again. Now, let's move on to Los Angeles, where the Fallen Angels are hosting Chicago and Montreal. And in this one, Chicago wins. Chicago 42, Montreal 31, Los Angeles 17. Now, LA rookie Keith Ogilvie did not play in this game because he's mourning the death of his brother, who died unexpectedly Tuesday. God frickin' speed. Now, Chicago player Paul Marullo came out to the media, said, "I'm playing hurt." I don't think anybody gave him any sympathy. Everybody is hurt, bruised, strained, broken, paralyzed, and mentally exhausted. Bring it on! Now, then Chicago player Finn Wehrle came out and said he'd like to get more playing time. On that team? I'm certain if he complains a little, they'll trade him. Because that's what happened to Kipper Grimmett a few weeks ago. If he wants to play in Salt Lake City, he can play all night long. And it's not going to make an iota of difference. Now, I think he should see how he may be used more effectively. This lineup is stacked and a serious contender this year. Don't do anything to jeopardize that. Now, for LA, it was Chip Chiozzi with 12 blocks and Clark Crapo with 8 goals. For Chicago, it was Cameron Baptista with 11 goals. And for Montreal, it was Edwin Milligan and Angela Carlucci with 6 goals each, and River Melcher with 5 blocks. And in the end of this one, Chicago picks up the 4 points. Montreal, 2 points. Los Angeles, nothing. Now, let's move on to the standings. Now, at the top, Seattle, 44 points. Chicago, 42 points. Detroit, 40 points. Washington, 35 points. New York and Denver, 30 points each. Now, Memphis, 29 points. Philadelphia, 28 points. Toronto, 25 points. The playoff line is drawn there. Now, 1 point back. Miami, 24 points. Montreal, 23 points. Los Angeles, 17 points. Phoenix, 17 points. Vancouver, 14 points. Boston, 13 points. Atlanta, 8 points. Dallas, 8 points. Salt Lake City, 7 points. Now, let's look at the goal leaders after week 13. Up at the top, Rob Donoff, Seattle, 90 goals. Laurie Moss, Seattle, 80 goals. Rock Weinstein, New York, 79 goals. James Korn, Seattle, 73 goals. Isaac Parker Johnson, Seattle, 67 goals. Stefan Grice, Montreal, also 67 goals. Star Palmer, Chicago, 62 goals. Cameron Baptista, Chicago, 61 goals. Travis Valencia, Philadelphia, 59 goals. Venus Pilar, Chicago, 58 goals. Larry McMaster, Denver, 57 goals. And Mohamed Karnasale, New York, 55 goals. The offensive player of the week is Curly Barnabani with 16 goals. Now, here are the block leaders after week 13. Up at the top, Vlad Millette, Seattle, 65 blocks. Cyrus Holleran, Denver, 63 blocks. Alan Adam, Memphis, 59 blocks. Anatoly Schaefer, Dallas, 57 blocks. Frank Viano, Seattle, 54 blocks. Jackson Truman, Phoenix, 54 blocks. Harlequin Butcher, Philadelphia, 53 blocks. Kofi Dominguez, Vancouver, 52 blocks. Emmett Ruan, Seattle, 49 blocks. Romeo DeRosa, Vancouver, 47 blocks. James Korn, Seattle, 44 blocks. Corey Vignali, Dallas. Mike Brenton, Boston, 43 blocks each. And the defensive player of the week is Jackson Truman with 18 blocks. Now, let's look at the leaders in GXB rating after week 13. Now, up at the top, Rob Donoff, 3,600. Vlad Millette, 3,445. Laurie Moss, 3,360. James Korn, 3,212. Chip Kiontzi, 2,376. Does anyone here never play for Seattle? Holy crap. Rhino Montalban, 1850. Mohamed Karnasale, 1815. Isaac Parker Johnson, 1809. Star Palmer, 1674. Larry McMaster, 1653. Venus Pilar, Chicago, 1624. Cameron Baptista, 1586. Now, let's move on to the league news. Now, more on the Samson Sartell arrest. He was found to have more than 2 pounds of marijuana in his car on a routine traffic stop. The officer pulled him over due to a broken tail light. He walked up to the car, smelled marijuana, he popped the trunk, and there for all to behold was enough Mary Jane to charge him with intent to distribute. Now, according to Arizona law, he can be charged with a Class 4 felony, which is a minimum of 4 years and a maximum of a 10-year prison sentence. Now, Sartell apparently grows his own marijuana, and it's not a criminal offense to grow for your own use, but apparently he grows enough for himself, his friends, and a few fellow players, and he was transporting the drug to his buddy's house when he was nabbed on the traffic stop. Man, you have to be a little more discreet next time. This lack of forethought is gonna cost Sartell his career and a few years of his life, which kind of sucks. But Sartell seems the kind of guy to do a lot of rash stuff, so without thinking much. So this is his modus operandi to begin with. Now, word has come down on Candy Farnetti's foul, and that has been extended from 1 game to 2 games. The Pharaohs better watch themselves. They have a playoff spot to maintain, and they can't risk throwing away any games at this juncture. Now, New York has parted ways with head coach Mickey Zuccaro. This is the 3rd coach New York has fired in the past 2 seasons. Now, despite New York's record, which is quite honestly pretty decent, and if I was Mickey Zuccaro, I would be absolutely gobstopped by this dismissal. Now, Zuccaro wasn't available for comment, but the team said that despite our record, there were members of the team and the organization that were not happy with their relationship with the coach. It always seemed to be in a constant state of conflict with multiple people, and the management made the decision to replace him. Now, assistant coach Anthony Texera will be the team's 4th head coach. That's crazy. Now, then there's teams that lose for 2 years straight and they still have the same head coach. Explain that shit. Now, Chicago coach Rosalind Saucier has quit. It's not political. It's definitely not because the team was losing, because the team has performed amazingly. Now, some would say above expectations. Now, Saucier is having trouble with her work-life balance, and she's mentally and physically exhausted. She has stepped aside, and her replacement has already been found. It's former New York Fire Demons coach Mickey Zuccaro. He says, fuck this no competition clause bullshit. I'm going to Chicago. That is the most wild thing to see. When the guy was unemployed for 35 minutes. Now, Detroit Rock owner Farouk Al-Saud says he's getting a divorce. And the unfortunate part is, I think he messed up the prenup. Word is his wife is getting the team. This should be interesting because when new people come into an organization, they usually clear out the old staff. So this should be a cool soap opera in Detroit. After Miss Sod meets Mike Facciolo, he's pretty abrasive, and he's not known to hold back how he feels. The barbells will be flying one way or the other. This much is true. Now, the Denver Sky have come out and said, we're going to do a rebrand, and the team will be changing its colors next year. Expect the colors of the state of Colorado flag to be very prominent in this rebrand, including more uniforms featuring different colors. That Sky logo always seemed to be very 1970s hockey logo to me, so I'm glad this rebrand is going to happen. Along with LA, next year is going to be fun. Now, let's move on to the mailbag. Matty V. Now that there's going to be 3 divisions instead of a single table, do you think there will be a strategy to making trades in the future so players don't get traded to division rivals? Absolutely, man. You look at what Seattle did this trade deadline. They sent players to Chicago, Detroit, LA. I mean, that looks like a very prudent move. And then you see a team like Phoenix, and they couldn't find a decent trade for Curly Barnabani. But, I mean, this offseason, that guy is probably going to be signed and traded out of the West Division. there's some really great players in Seattle, and that could make for some pretty awesome trades. But now that they're in the same division next year, you bet your ass they'll try to ship him off to Chicago or New York. That's really a great question that will add some dimension to how every trade is made going forward. Now, on to the Shop Zone. This week, it's our Players Can't Sing t-shirt. I'm serious. Somebody make them stop. For our international fans, we got Die Delta Liga from Deutschland. We got I Delta Linga from Greece. And Haliga Shel Delta from Israel. Now, the world demand for Delta League is ravenous. Now, on to the games and predictions for week 14. Now, we've got on Monday, Montreal hosting Philadelphia and Washington. And this should be an interesting, close game. Mainly because Washington needs this game to avoid slipping any lower in the standings. Philly needs this game because they're fighting to keep their fragile playoff position alive, and Montreal needs 4 points because they need to keep pace with Miami, who seems to be collecting 2 points every single week. Time to get serious for Montreal, but they've been so inconsistent lately that I'm taking Philly in a close game. Now, on to Wednesday, where Vancouver is hosting Denver and Boston, and I'll make this short. Denver too good. Vancouver and Boston incredibly lackluster. Denver 4-4. Now, on to the Saturday matinee game, where Detroit is hosting Dallas and Miami. And Miami is coming off their first franchise win 2 weeks ago. And this year, they led the league in second place finishes. Those points add up. Now, Detroit looks like the team to beat here, but they are vulnerable to lackluster performances, especially when their scoring relies on one player predominantly. If Miami gets their second win of the year, it will be here. But history tells me the Rock will win, keep pace with Seattle, and Miami will get the deuce. Now, on to Toronto, who is hosting Memphis in Salt Lake City. And Toronto and Memphis are leaving with points. Pure and simple. Salt Lake City has been horrible. The only thing that will save Toronto from complete humiliation is the fact that SLC is so much worse. Memphis stays hot and takes the 4 points. Now, Seattle is hosting Chicago and New York. This is definitely the game of the week with bragging rights at stake here. We've got the 3 of the top 5 teams in the league in this game. It's been a few weeks since the Pirates have really laid on the pain, and they seem overdue. In any other game, I'd probably take the Pride or the Fire Demons, but my first instinct is to take the Pirates and a 100-point goal total. Now, the scoring is going to come fast and furious in this one, and if you like zero loyalties and want to watch 3 teams that want to win, this is the game. Now, Chicago is one of only 2 teams that beat Seattle this year, so if there's going to be an upset, that's what I would shoot for. If I had to pick a team to leave with nothing, it would be New York, pure and simple. Now, lastly, on to Los Angeles, who's hosting Phoenix and Atlanta. And just when you think LA is finished, they pick up 4 points with a roster that looks like a hospital ward. This week, they get Atlanta and Phoenix, and this team has done nothing but shoot themselves in the foot. The betting man tells me that LA is going to stay hot and inconceivably continue to climb the standings when we know damn well they have no business doing so. Now, that's it for this week in the Delta League podcast. Join me next week, where the action continues and never stops. See ya.
This is Delta 2.